Thanks, so sorry about that. Can I have everybody's attention, people? So what I'm going to do the first day we come back, every week after your quizzes, I'll go over the quiz, not to hammer at anybody who got questions wrong, but just point out what was wrong, kind of in the largeness of the group, and then where the answers are. They're all located there. Now, some of these aren't going to be black and white. In other words, you can't do data mining. That happened in high school where they taught you how to find the answers. Everybody know what I mean by data mining? So here, the questions will be coming from the notes, but this is also about critical thinking. Philosophy is about putting information together and coming up with the right answer. So my guess is that when you don't get things right, it's probably because you couldn't find the information directly out of the notes. It was a process that I used in order to get us to think a little deeper about what's going on. Also, I need to say to you, since there's 13 quizzes, there may be 14, and there's 10 questions on each one. Each question is worth 0.57 points. So if you got 2 wrong, you lost 1.4 points out of 104. So you have 102.6 points right now, even if you got an 80 on the quiz. So keep that in mind when you look at it, because you'll see a grade, and like maybe you'll see a 60. Well, what you've done is you lost 4 questions, which would be 2 and then 2 more. So that would be about 4.4 points. So you have a 99.6. So you're still doing really well in this class, just the way the quizzes are graded. 72 points for the quizzes, 32 points for your essay. So don't freak out. In other words, if you have any questions or you think you're doing poorly in class, ask me and I can go in and find out your real grade. I just add up the questions you got wrong, excuse me, times 0.57, and I can tell you exactly what your grade is. The course is worth 104 points. So you already have half a grade of extra credit. There's some breathing room in there. And once you do your essay for me, give me a good essay, well thought out, grammar, punctuation, spelling, you should get at least 28 points or higher, which is a 30-year grade. Get that out of the way by week 7, the beginning of week 7. Anybody doing the essays yet? Anybody looking at any of the videos yet? I wouldn't wait till the end, people. You don't want to, I don't know if other faculty, I call it loading up the front end of the course, so you get your work done so you don't have to deal with it later on. I think more faculty are beginning to do that, so you may have more work to do than I would have imagined when I front-loaded the course on you. But I wouldn't delay too much. If you have any questions about the question I'm asking you regarding the video you're watching, ask me so you write me a good essay and you don't go south with it. Any questions about that at all? So today we're going to, now that we're beyond logic, we're going to talk about metaphysics. Metaphysics deals with what's really real. And under that then is a subtopic we called ontology. What kind of things are really real? Material things we all agree on, but then there's what we call non-material or immaterial things like thoughts, ideas, concepts, intuitions, or things we call epiphanies. Someone tell me what epiphany means? E-P-I-P-H-A-N-Y, epiphany, when you have an epiphany. It's when the light suddenly goes on and you see something you'd never seen before. It comes out of the blue. It's like lightning strikes. So an epiphany, those things just happen to us as well. But they're not material. So how do we evaluate those thoughts, those concepts, those ideas? So that's what ontology is. Epistemology is how do we know what we know? For instance, there's false beliefs. Some of us believe things that turn out not to be true. There's a rather large group of people who still believe the world is flat. They're convinced it is. Now, if it's really not true that the world is flat, that the world is curved, then this is false belief, even though they believe it's true. Then there's true belief, which oftentimes is based on opinion. You have some validation for it, you have some proof for it, maybe using inductive logic, and you're pretty sure it's true, but you're not sure it's really, really true. Then there's understanding, which we call indirect knowledge, and finally, in the Western world, we use reason, or we choose to say reason is the way that we're going to uncover the truth, and I'll go through that in the notes today. This is called intellectual knowledge. So in the West, we use reason plus experimentation to evolve to arrive at true knowledge. See this on your quiz. Reason plus experimentation. The East uses interconnectedness and intuition. Now here's the weird thing. It's the same world. You look at it, the world, it's the same world. We use these two tools. We'll learn in a couple of weeks that the East uses two different tools. We have an understanding of the world that's not contrary to each other, but we arrive at ours, we say, primarily through reason and experimentation. If reason gives us some answers and we can prove it over and over and over again, it must be true. Sun comes up in the east and sets in the west. If that happens over and over and over again, reason tells us the sun must come up in the east and set in the west. And that also talks to us about the rotation of the earth around the sun, the solar system, etc., etc. Now the east is going to use a different way of looking at the world. They look through a different kaleidoscope, same world, come in general to the same conclusions we do. So today and next week we want to go through how we look at the world, the prism that we look through, and the tools we use that give us the understanding that we have about the world that we live in, knowing that we have to deal with false belief, true belief, understanding, until maybe we get down to the foundation of knowledge. Everybody with me on that? Okay. Now, I don't want to maximize the matrix I started with you this semester, but these 3 quick videos are going to point out the fact that it's easy to be not deceived, but to think what you know is what you know, and it's not necessarily the case. And we'll finally get to a gentleman named René Descartes, a French philosopher, who tried to break down all of our knowledge to what he said was the one single thing he could prove to be true, and then we begin to rebuild our knowledge from there. And I'll explain why that's problematic. These are just a few minutes long, each one of them. Are you serious? Someone has removed my ability to hear. Anybody remember seeing this in the Matrix? I'm going to have to ad-lib people. Is it turned off? Thank you very much. I never would have, well, it's not really, but we'll see if it works now.
You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to win. Ironically, this is not far from the truth. Do you believe in fate, Neil?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life.
I know exactly what you mean. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain. You feel it. You felt it, you're that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Matrix. Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. What is the Matrix? Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
So if we suspend the idea of the Matrix, let's say we're not in the Matrix, we're all really real, and we all live in a real world, and we all have real thoughts, and we all have real interactions. What's important about this video is that it's possible we live in a world where the wool has been pulled over our eyes. Marshall McLuhan in the 60s said, "He who controls media controls thought." So let's have a little thought experiment for a minute. Last week, when I was trying to explain inductive reasoning, one of the things I used was the coming ice age, that we've been through 7 cycles over 800,000 years. We seem to be at the end of a warming one, and if that's true, and the cycle persists itself, regardless of who's causing the warming, we may well go into another ice age. So let's ask some questions and see what we believe. How many of you believe in global warming? That it gets warmer? How many of you believe in global cooling? It's cold winter, people. The world gets cooler and the world gets warmer. How many of you hear through the media and the political stage at least, what's most important and troubling is global warming right now? I heard it just today. In fact, someone just predicted in 12 years the world would come to an end because of global warming. A politician came out and said it. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not. How many of you have heard about global cooling? The coming ice age? Just a handful of us. Where did you hear it from? I don't want to pigeonhole you, but I am.
Is the counter-argument to global warming?
Counter-argument?
It's part of climate change. We have global warming and then global cooling after.
Right. Did you raise your hand too?
Yeah. No, I just read about it. No, I don't remember specifically. It's probably just.
How many of you know that this has been the warmest year on the planet, but over the last 2 years, the planet has actually cooled by 2 degrees? That's heresy. And then they're talking about putting people in jail who talk about that. Because global warming is really important. I mentioned to you at the end of the lecture on Thursday, if it turns out that at the end of global heating, we're going into global cooling and we're going to another ice age, we will see the largest mass migration the world has ever seen, about 2.5 billion people having to leave the northern regions and come south. And there's no place for them. That's why they live up there. We don't have room for them down here. We don't have the accommodations for them. So the point of that is this. We have a lot of things we believe in. I don't want to pick on global cooling and global warming. It's just something that's in the news and talked about a lot. There's a lot of things we believe in. We've been told these things are true. Now, some of them have factual evidence. I could bring up videos, scientists talking before Congress admitting 98% of them, we are going through a warm period. But only half of them believe it's all our fault. And the other half think nature's done this on its own, but we're exacerbating it by suddenly burning so much fuel since the industrial age in 1730. Well, who do you believe? And that's the problem with belief. If the information's not grounded in true knowledge, then we're believing based on partial information. What's true and what isn't true. And that's our quest for knowing what kind of world we live in. What's really real? What's really going on out there? How do we know what's really going on out there? Because if it turns, now I'm not promoting this, but if it turns out that we're at the end of the 10,000 year cycle and we're going to go into the ice age, we're completely unprepared. We're unprepared because we don't know that's something we should be prepared for. And if we're not prepared for it, it could be catastrophic. Or it's just another one of those lies and someone's trying to promote the lie for whatever reason. Cody.
Why not look at it from a perspective that obviously